It's actually drizzling ever so slightly here, although I can clearly see pockets of blue sky, so we should be able to find a place to fly. And what did I read today? Speaking about flying drones, how about this one where apparently some Amazon Prime drones crashed, and this isn't the first time. That company is not getting any breaks as mentioned. This one here says Amazon faces FAA NTSB probe after 2 delivery drones crashed into crane in Arizona. That kind of makes it even worse. What happened to the obstacle detection and all that, huh? It says Amazon is facing federal probes after 2 of its Prime Air delivery drones collided with a crane in Arizona, prompting the company to temporarily pause drone service in the area. The incident occurred on Wednesday around 1 p.m. EST in Tucson, Arizona, a city west of Phoenix. 2 Mk-30 drones crashed into the boom of a stationary construction crane that was in a commercial area just a few miles away from an Amazon warehouse. 1 person was evaluated on the scene for possible smoke inhalation, said Sergeant Eric Mendez of Tucson Police Department, saying, quote, "We're aware of an incident involving 2 Prime Air drones in Tucson, Arizona." Amazon spokesperson Terrence Clark said in a statement, "We're currently working with the relevant authorities to investigate." Now, it makes you wonder what happened, because it seems like this company is primarily the one that's in the news in terms of their drones crashing during delivery and all that, or during tests. And you can see various news organizations there capturing the destroyed drones on the ground and all that. And it says both drones sustained substantial damage from the collision on Wednesday, which occurred when the aircraft were mid-route, according to preliminary FAA crash reports. It makes you wonder what happened here, huh? They do say the drones were flying back to back. Is it kind of like tailgating, for example, with cars where they were too close? And maybe one drone in the front stopped because it saw the crane and the other didn't and it crashed into it. That's my assumption anyways. I mean, that's pretty bad if both of them actually didn't detect any obstacles or anything like that. I'm not a psychic, but even I predicted stuff like this will happen. For example, a lot of people would say, okay, you need all these people restricted, these recreational flyers, over-the-top regulations, because you can't have these accidents, for example. So we need to do something about it. And I guarantee, for example, accidents are going to happen, and ironically, they probably are going to happen when all this stuff is in place. For example, like here, you can get all the approvals and stuff that you want. It's more about how do you deal with the situation in general. Makes you wonder if Amazon as a company will continue to try to create in-house drone solutions, or if they will just outsource it to someone else, as an example, because it's just kind of interesting too how it seems like it's them specifically that seems to be having all these accidents. And then how about this one? With a lot of drone fear around the world, apparently they say they arrested people who they say may have been, for example, spying around various areas. This one says, Chinese arrested with drone near major NATO base. 2 Chinese nationals have been arrested in connection with flying a drone near Bardufoss Airport, a dual-use facility that also serves as one of Norway's most important military hubs. Police in Mid-Troms in northern Norway said the pair were detained Tuesday after being found operating an unmanned aerial vehicle close to the airport. The base is home to Royal Norwegian Air Force units and regularly hosts U.S. Marines and other NATO forces during Arctic exercises. And they emphasize here, essentially, everyone's up on edge about mystery drones flying around various places. They don't know who it is, and as well, the concern of, quote, Chinese espionage in terms of them gathering intel, I suppose, with their drones and all that. It's a little odd here too, because according to this anyways, it says they apprehended them and questioned them in terms of what they were doing, but ultimately they released them, but they seized their devices like the drones and so forth to review. I would think if you are semi-confident, for example, they are doing some kind of espionage work and so forth, wouldn't you actually detain them indefinitely until you know what's going on versus just saying, okay, you're free to go, I'll just take your drone? And that's a little weird, isn't it? Especially with how this thing implies they're not sure if it could be something that's government related, for example. Funny enough, it kind of mentions in this article too, because of stuff like this where everyone's on edge, countries are warning their citizens about traveling to certain places, and apparently that's the case here too in Canada, but it seemed like it was a little different, where here it says Canada issues warning for US bound travelers with gender neutral passports. The federal government has updated its travel advisory to the US with a warning that people who have the gender neutral X identifier on their passports may face restrictions when crossing the southern border. I know there were all those viral videos in the US a couple of months ago where they announced how if you have an ID and you list yourself as a gender that you weren't actually born with, they automatically reverted it. For example, if a guy says he's a female, that's what he quote identifies with, then it will say, for example, a male in their ID, and you saw all these people freaking out with these viral videos. So I'm guessing it would be kind of the same thing, where if a Canadian has a passport or something where they're identifying themselves as a gender that's opposite of what they were born as, then they will probably get turned away or something like that. That's what I would think anyways. As mentioned, even I was unaware that people could actually do that with their official government IDs. I know in a lot of cases here nowadays, when you fill out some kind of form, for example, it could be registering for some kind of service, or maybe it's a job or something like that. It actually asks you, how do you want to identify as? But in these cases, it raises the question, should people be able to do that in these instances? Because when is it too much in terms of somebody saying, I'm this, therefore you should write it down as that, when in reality, you have to base things, I guess, scientifically, in my opinion anyways, especially when it comes to official IDs. Otherwise, like in these cases, how far is too far? For example, if someone wants to claim they are of a certain race, for example, does them just changing the color of their skin, literally like painting over it, all of a sudden makes them that ethnicity, for example? I mean, it is kind of weird, but in that regards, but that seems to be the path that it's going towards if you don't have some kind of set standard, for example, in that regards. All right, see you guys later.